Look, I might share something I've prepared, see if I can work out how to do this. Can everybody see that?
Yes, we see.
Yes.
Good. So, yeah, I guess there's been great increasing global awareness of care leaver needs now, particularly for about 20 years, and a lot of countries have introduced new legislation or expanded existing policies and services to assist care leavers. One particular form of upgraded support has been the introduction of what we call extended care programs in some jurisdictions, which allow young people to remain in care until 21 years of age or even older. And those programs are viewed as providing young people with a more normative transition process based on developmental capacity rather than chronological age that is likely to facilitate improved outcomes. So there's a couple of major examples of extended care around the world that I've looked at in a fair bit of detail. One being the Staying Put program in England, which was introduced as a pilot in 2008 and was then legislated nationally in 2014. And the Fostering Connections Act in the USA, which was enacted in 2008 and now applies in 30 states in America. Both those programs were formally evaluated. The English program by Emily Munro and the US program by Mount Ortney, and they've both been found to provide significant benefits to participants in a range of areas like housing, education, employment and training, and also reduced early parenting and criminal justice involvement. Recently, our neighbours, New Zealand, legislated to give care leavers an entitlement to support up to the age of 21, with the possibility of further advice and assistance till 25. And 4 states and territories in Australia have introduced extended care trials quite recently, enabling care leavers to remain in foster or kinship care placements or access an accommodation allowance if they're leaving residential care until 21 years of age. So I guess today provides us with an opportunity to consider what is happening in the aftercare or extended care space globally, taking into account that there will be a lot of variations according to the social and cultural characteristics of the care leaver population, the eligibility conditions imposed for participation, which often are around a requirement to be involved in educational training or employment, and the wider social safety net supports available in that country. So we're looking forward to hearing from all of you about the developments in your individual jurisdictions. So I pretty much throw it open from here as to who would like to begin.
But maybe we should, since we are not so many people, we could have a short, everybody could say their names and where they are from before we, and then you can maybe write your name in the chat and then I can give the word around. My name is Oterholm and I come from Norway. Beatrice, will you?
Yes, my name is Beatrice and I come from Switzerland. Philip, can I have these slides you have shown before? Philip?
I suppose you can.
Philip? Yeah, can I have this one? Can you make me a mail with this?
Hello?
I suppose you can, yeah.
I'll give you my mail address so you can maybe send me a mail.
To one of you, Kieran, will you introduce yourself, or Philip? Are you, or?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, I hope you guys can hear me. My name is Kieran. Calling in from Belgium, but from Ireland. And yeah, very interested to hear more about the comparative context as well. I'm working on a project. I'm not doing research full time. I'm working in policy, but also some, I would say, research light, as I like to call it. With regards to care leavers, we have a project that we're working on with Your Child network I work with, called CarePath, which is about trying to develop more and I guess call for more and better aftercare in Europe. So very interested to hear any kind of international comparisons there as well. We're having a conference in about a month as well to close our project on October the 13th. By all means, please, we'll happily share more information with you guys later in the session too on that too. And we're hoping for, I believe Professor Mike Stein is one of the founders of the INTRAC community, and he's going to be our keynote speaker for the conference as well. So yeah, but anyways, happy to talk more. Don't want to take more space for now. Anyways, lovely to meet you all digitally, and you've been into, yeah, we'll talk later. Cheers.
Thank you. I sort of introduced myself, but I'll add a little bit to that. So obviously, I'm Philip Mendes from Monash University in Australia. I've been involved in leaving care research for about 20 years, and I've been active in INTRAC since 2008. And we've just finished a major project on Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander care leavers in Australia. We're doing a few other projects at the moment, particularly around housing. And I'm also involved in a number of comparative projects at the moment, particularly with a colleague in New Zealand. So can talk about that a bit more as we go on. Who would like to go next?
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, my name is Watson Piri from Africa, Zambia. Yes, I'm working under SOS Students Village. I'm a youth coordinator. I coordinate the program of the youth in the village. And I also prepare the youth for living care. So I'm more interested to learn more about how to prepare these young people to go outside when they are trying to find employment or other skills. So I want to hear more. Thank you.
Thank you. Who would like to go next?
Me. Hi everyone, my name is Jie Tokuyama from Japan. At the moment I'm working as teaching associate in Shigaomi University, Tokyo in Japan. I am planning to research because it's Japan doesn't have the concept of the living care. So I would like to explore the children in care, the experience in care and living care and aftercare. So also I would like to a comparison to different countries in the context. Thank you.
Thank you. and maybe Anna. Have we got Anna, or Anna's coming up, but well, maybe
She's turned off her mic and her camera, but maybe later.
she's saying she's got a problem with the microphone.
Yeah.
Maybe we can chat with her later on. Perhaps it will work. So trying there. So I think it would be good to hear a bit more about what is happening in the individual countries. Did you want to say a bit about what's happening in Norway, Inga?
Yes, I'd like to do that. I think that's a good idea to learn to know what's happened around. In Norway, it's possible to get aftercare until you're 23, but soon maybe until 25. But that has not entered into force yet. But in Norway, there's no special aftercare program, but you can continue staying in foster care and also get financial assistance and supported housing. Those three are the most common aftercare measures. And as in other countries, several young people struggle in the transition to adulthood, and registered data also shows that those who get aftercare do better in school, less need of social assistance benefit, and are to a lesser extent unemployed. And I think that's really interesting to see that the same results are almost across the globe, no matter what kind of welfare system you have. And in Norway, even if it's possible to have extended care or stay in the foster home until you're 23, very few young people do that. A lot, it's only some months maybe, or maybe until you're 19 and finished upper secondary school or high school. Then you can almost all of them move out, and it differs if the foster parents keep in contact or not. So I'm been working with some project with the government together with other researchers to try to make the transition better and more not so random, and also help the foster parents. I'm doing a research project with Ingrid Høyer from Sweden, and we are also interviewing foster parents, and I think that's really interesting because they are so important, and very few have been talking to them about the transition to adulthood, and both foster parents and the young person are quite unsecure or unsure what will happen now, and can we stay, and will the young people stay, and the young person can feel, do the foster parents want me to stay, and so there's a lot of questions.
Sorry, Inga. So I'm wondering whether the research shows that the young people that stay in care longer have better outcomes in Norway?
Yes, that's what I said. It's only registered data that has been, that can tell that. So it's the same as in the States and other places. Yes, that was a little from Norway.
Would any of the other people like to talk more about their country at the moment? Or would they like me to say a bit more about Australia?
I can just a little bit. I don't know because I'm not working with it at national level, but I know in Ireland a lot of the aftercare and extended care supports for young people have been extended due to the pandemic, and so initially this was until the end of June, which was well received by the community in Ireland, and organizations, partners of ours, are working with this at national level. And then I know they've also extended it up until yesterday. And I was just having a quick look because I was on leave for a week or so, but I haven't seen any announcement of any further extension since, so I'm not quite sure exactly what's the current state of play. But I know that extended care has been pushed forward in Ireland a little bit to give supports to care leavers during this time.
We've had an interesting debate in Australia because we've had reasonable legislation for quite a bit of time, but we have 8 different states and territories, and they all have different policies, they have different laws and different programs, and but the commonality is that the support beyond 18 tends to be very discretionary and very inconsistent. So the push in Australia for extending care to 21 for everybody has really come from looking at England, looking at the whole of the United Kingdom, looking at America, where there is that mandatory support till 21. Well, in America in 30 states, and in the UK virtually all over now. And that's something that advocates in Australia are seeing as a better system that we should ideally copy. But the campaigns have had to operate in every single state and territory. There is no national legislation. So we've got 4 trials in 4 different states, but 2 of the trials only support young people living in foster care or kinship care till 21, not young people leaving residential care. And then 2 of the other states support young people leaving all forms of care, but all of those trials only support a small number of young people. So in Victoria, we're supporting 250 young people over 5 years, but about 800 young people leave care every year in Victoria. So it's been a big debate about, well, we'd really like this extended care to apply to everybody. And like what you were mentioning, Kieran, because of COVID-19, some of the governments have said, well, at least till the end of 2020, every care leaver will get care extended. But we're now in September, and we're wondering, well, what will happen in 2021? We really don't know. So I did publish a paper which I might try and just share with you briefly, which will some of you may have seen. Can everybody see that on their screen? And that appeared in the British Journal of Social Work only a few months ago. And what Justin, who's from Bath, and I tried to do in that paper is basically look at, well, what has happened. I'll go past Australia. What has happened in England? What has happened in America? And what can Australia learn from the good and the not so good in England and America? We've had people like Mark Courtney and Emily Munro visit Australia in the last 2 years and speak at a conference and speak to policymakers about positive benefits and gains in their countries, and that has actually had quite a big impact on the debate in Australia, fortunately. So I'll stop sharing that and see if any of you have got any questions about that, or or would like to say a bit more about your own country.
Can I ask you, Philip, do you think the reason why it's not mandatory or not in every state in Australia, is it a money issue, or is it they don't understand the need, or?
Look, a bit of both. It does cost money, and governments already spend a lot of money on out-of-home care, built billions of dollars a year. So there isn't a lot of public awareness of the fact that care stops at 18 years of age. So if you talk to ordinary people in Australia, they all think young people can stay with foster carers till they're 21 or older. They don't know that funding cuts out on the very day that they turn 18. In general, leaving care and out-of-home care doesn't have a terribly high profile in Australia. There is sometimes media reporting, but the media get more excited about children or young people in care dying. And then if you can persuade young people leaving care who've become homeless to be interviewed in the newspaper or TV, that will gain a bit of publicity. But, you know, there's a lot of concern that may be stigmatising or even traumatising young people. But there is a lot more media reporting of leaving care now than 10 years ago. 10 years ago, you might see a media report 2 or 3 times a year if you were lucky, whereas now there are media reports quite regularly. So the more media reporting you get, the more government and ministers become aware of it. And we've had a very good campaign called the Home Stretch campaign, run by Anglicare and a number of other non-government organisations, which is what persuaded those 4 states and territories to introduce trials. So that campaign is still going, and it has been a very, very effective campaign, and a number of care leaders have been involved in that campaign, and they've spoken at public launches. They've spoken in the media, and that has been very important. Yeah.
Thank you. It's interesting to hear about the discussions in other countries, and I think you and your colleagues have done so much interesting research, so I would think that they would be, that would have some impact on the politicians as well.
Yeah, well, we keep trying, and we don't go away.
No.
So we'll keep putting pressure on them.
That's good.
And Beatrice, so I didn't quite catch where you were from earlier. Which country were you from?
Switzerland.
Oh, Switzerland. Ah.
Switzerland, yes. But I work in the Competence Center Living Care. It's an NGO in Switzerland, and we make the bridge between practice and research. So we want that the research comes to the politics, so that will change something. Because in Switzerland we are very small, but we have no national legal. So every canton, that's 26 canton area in the Swiss regional areas, everyone has own legal basic for the care leaver, and regularly they will be care leaver with 18, and in few cantons they receive support until 25. And we want with the Competence Center that all care leavers in Switzerland can have support until 25, but it's a long way to go to the politic that it will change the legal basics.
Well, we complain about having 8 different governments. 26 is a much bigger number.
Yes.
That is a lot of work.
Yeah, that is a lot of work because no one looks right or left. Yesterday we have a discussion because north and south of the world, and we in Switzerland we want that the right looks what the left is doing, and it's really a hard work because you have to read with everyone, with every canton, what they do, and the awakeness for the care leavers, the young people in transition. It's so for the people. They think until 18 they have done enough, and now it's finished. They can look for themselves.
We had the INTRAC forum in Zurich about 5 years ago.
Yeah.
I think Samuel Keller organised it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we work together with universities for the research. So, because it's very important to have, you have to research for the politic. You have to show how much young people they are, what is. You have the facts. You can only with facts, go with facts. Not only yes, it would be good that. It's not enough. But yeah, in Switzerland it's about 5-6 years that living care is a topic. Before we haven't discussed about, because in Switzerland in care we make a lot, really a lot in care, but then aftercare nothing, no money in Switzerland, no money for aftercare.
Yeah, I find it very strange because it's a bit like a government investing in an industry for 3 or 4 years and then just cutting all the money off and possibly wasting all the money they'd invested up until then. It doesn't make sense, but
No,
yeah,
really.
yeah. Thank you. Shay?
We have a new study in Switzerland, so I can make in the chat, write the title, so maybe if you're interested, what we do.
And we've got some more discussion from Kieran here as well about about I guess poor outcomes of care, suicide, poor health outcomes, homelessness. Which we find everywhere. Yeah. Sorry, I interrupted you there, Kieran.
No, I was just going to, I guess, reiterate what I said in chat, just to say it in person or in voice as well, digitally. It's that there seems that there is more coverage in an Irish context on the needs of care leavers. At a more European level, I know from this project we're working on, the age for care leaving in Hungary, surprisingly, a country not known for its human rights these days, is actually quite positive. I think you can stay in care and extended care up until age 25 and even later if you're in an educational institution. And I thought that was an interesting point you mentioned, or was mentioned in the previous icebreaker we had, were around the how a lot of care leaving or extended care supports is tied to education or employment as well, considering these are typically people who are, I mean, you run the risk of then not providing supports for those who are really the most vulnerable of the demographic as well. So that's an interesting discussion point in itself. And when you talk about the costs and then taking away these supports and the long-term costs it can have, which research is hopefully coming to light to demonstrate, because that might give a better argument for those of us advocating for change. But yeah, it's all very, we know very clearly that it's, we know that this needs support. We need to get that message very clear into the hands of those who can decide on the money allocation. But that's a systemic thing.
Yeah, well, governments like to get an economic argument as well as a social argument, don't they? They like to be told that if they spend more money on care leavers, that they'll save money on housing or mental health or criminal justice or income support. Yeah. So Shay, did you want to tell us a bit more about Japan?
Yeah. So, so in Japan, it's from last year, the government regulation has been changed a lot. And then they put on a lot of funding for the aftercare, particularly the education and housing. And I'm not really sure how you say it's in Japan. If you want to work or if you want to rent a house, you need some the person to admit you are right. I don't know how you say you needed a guardian or something. So it's government haven't had the guardian for them. So now it's allocate the guardian for like 2 to 5 years to able to rent the house and the employee, the support. And the basic age is aged out, it's 18, but it's like a special circumstance. They are able to extend it until 20 years old. But it's from 2011, this regulation was only just a special circumstance, but now it's the government say that you should take consideration to stay until 20. But only just now is they're using the extended care only 18.9%. So it's not much. And also I think it's the big issue is 90% are still institutionalized and only just it's 10% are foster care. So government now is pushing a lot more this institutionalized to move to foster care. Yeah, at the moment yeah.
So has there been any research on outcomes for care leavers in Japan?
I couldn't find much about the outcome. So they say the connection with a community or more school connection, that kind of stuff, but it's no outcome at all. So I was just needed to, I'm thinking to explore that kind of research, yeah.
Well, it would be good to to get a picture of what is happening there.
Mm.
Yeah. All right.
Could I just ask, Chi?
Yeah. Go for it.
Can you do you know why the government the legislation changed last year, or has there been a kind of campaign for changing and getting more?
Yes,
support?
I think it's that the UN is a push a lot the pressure on the government, and also it's the same as Philip mentioned that it's a TV or movie. It's that particularly some I think Japan is a lot more effect on the TV program, and they put in some the residential care workers some TV show. It's the research about this kind of stuff. So it's talking about a lot, and then they have activities, more funding, that, and then the law was changed. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's the large number of institution, the still, so that's why they now it's pushed forward to, yeah, more at the family size of the care.
Thank you. It's interesting to hear. Yeah.
Fee, did you want to say a bit more about Zambia?
Yes, I think in Zambia, the government since last year, they have started pushing a lot for the children to get out of the care. They are saying that children, when they grown up into care, they lack of some norms, cultures. They're saying that they are not attached too much to the communities, because most of the times they are being confined in inside the care, so they miss a lot. So they are pushing the government, saying that these children, they are supposed to live out of inside the care, and then they're supposed to stay with their parents or relatives, so that if you want to help them, you are supposed to help them while they're still there with their caregivers outside, instead of them coming into the care. So it has been the government, they're pushing a lot. From now, we are in trouble because they're pushing a lot for these children to move out from the care. They're saying that care should be the last option for these children, especially maybe for those who are abandoned ones. Then it can be okay for them to stay there, but not for so long. We need to find some other forms of care. For example, kinship is one of them that they're encouraging, that we are supposed to look for kinship, and also for those who are willing to look after those children, we can also give them these children if they are willing, so that these children, they should develop the sense of belonging in the communities. Yeah, there is also some problems where the government are saying that when they grown up, especially the youth, like me, I'm dealing with the youth, they're saying that there is a lot of challenges because it's very difficult for them to find employment. Also for the youth to get in touch with the others, it takes time, because they usually leave the village normally when the care, when they are 27, 28 years. So now it's very difficult for them to get used to the community. So you find that they get for them to adopt to the environment, it takes maybe 5 to 10 years, which is sometimes we find that the youth is almost 30, 35 years. So it's very difficult for them to mingle or to get used to the communities. And even to find the friends in the communities, it's very difficult for them. And these children, when they grown up in the care, they also find the problems because they usually do things for them. Then when they're out to do things on their own, it became very difficult. So find that because they are used to get things done for them in the care system. So the government, they're encouraging that no, this system, I think they should not be encouraged. They should go outside so that they should learn how the people that are staying in the society. So I think for now, we are pushing on most of the children outside so that they should get help through with their biological relatives, all of those who don't have relatives, but they are supposed to be through adoption process. Yes.
So it sounds like a time of a lot of change, a lot of policy change.
Yes. So the government, they're trying to come up with a lot of policies in terms of this, because of this care institutions. Yeah, actually in Zambia, they started the institution, this care institution, they started in 2000 after, yes, after independence, people, they were saying that, the president, they were saying that no, children, they also have some relatives, they cannot stay in the care because everyone has got where it comes from. So children, it's not good to grow up in care. So there was that debate until 2000 when it was adopted, saying that we should, they can open up some care institutions. And most of the care institutions, they have been closed. Very few they are operating.
I guess that debate about whether there are other people in the community that can care for children or young people is a big debate everywhere, because in Australia there's been a lot of focus on government programs, but not a lot of attention about whether young people leaving care have broader support networks from people in the community that can, you know, that they can form relationships with and connections with, and that can help them to access education and employment. So I think we're starting to think about that more in Australia, but certainly around the world, I think that issue of what we call informal support networks or informal social networks is very important. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Actually, the government, even like in Zambia, you know that the government, they are pushing a lot for these children to go outside, but they don't have, we don't have the system which on how they can help these children when they are when they go out of care. They don't have programs. The government, they don't have aligned programs that they on how they can help these children after young people after they leave in care. They don't have much programs. Yes, they've got big programs which are these children who are living care, they can't even access those programs because they are big programs.
So when young people turn 18, would most of the funding then come from non-government organisations?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So probably like for me, I'm facing a lot of challenges, especially in terms of employment. When I'm trying to resettle them to get them out of the care, I find that most of the time they just seated. There's no employability problems. So I'm trying to come up with a lot of programs, especially for entrepreneurship, so that maybe I can help them now with some those who have got skills. Where maybe I can source some funds to other partners so that they can start some small businesses. Because employment now, it has become a challenge. So maybe they can go into other way of entrepreneurship in terms of business. Maybe we can succeed with that. Yes.
Well, it sounds like a very important commitment to get that working. Yeah.
Yes.
Did any of the other people have questions about Zambia? Not at the moment. Inga, did you want to say a little bit more about Norway? What you think is working well there?
That's I think it's much of the same discussions as everywhere, and we have has been a lot of discussion about should it be mandatory or for the state to give aftercare, and the young people have a right, and that's still kind of unclear, even if the Child Welfare Act last year became a rights act that they have right to support, but the aftercare support is still not clear if that also is rights based, and that's also why I asked if the politicians understands the need, or why they don't want to, or why it's so difficult to get aftercare mandatory in a lot of states. And I think in Norway it's kind of they're afraid that the young people should be dependent on the state, and even if almost all other young people get support from their parents, but getting support from the state is quite different. So I think that's still part of the discussion, and when the government discusses it, they think it's they say, oh, they need support, but we're not quite sure. Do we want to make it right or what or not? So I'm not quite sure what will happen, but it's more focused than it has been before, as you all tell about, and I think more young people get aftercare, but still it's kind of a lot of issues to work with.
It's interesting to hear that, because a lot of people look at Norway as being part of Scandinavia, and Scandinavia having the reputation of being the leading welfare states in the world, and they assume that support for care leavers would also be better there or more effective than elsewhere. But it sounds like that is not really the case.
Now, I think it's very much like it is in other parts of the world, and until now it's only 23, and as I said, a lot of young people only get support until 19 or 20. But I know in Sweden it's worse than in Norway. Just to they don't have a aftercare legislation at all, but it is possible under the social welfare law to get some support, but it's not very clear, or it's not an it's more difficult, and it's not so focused as in Norway. So there are differences in the Nordic countries as well.
Your comment about the government not recognising that they've got a responsibility to the young people, and talking about not wanting the young people to become dependent, it is interesting, because given child protection and out-of-home care is all about the government's taking on a parental role, and as we know, most young people, well, in Australia and probably in a lot of the world, most young people now stay at home till they're 25 years of age or even older. It doesn't make sense that a state parent would still say at 18 you've got to be an adult, you've got to be independent, when most people in the community don't expect that of their own children anymore.
And that's really interesting to use that comparison with the politicians, and so then they, of course, they would support their child, and so why not? So yeah, can I just ask? And yeah, in Ireland, or is it a kind of special model for support who's been implemented for aftercare, or maybe I just heard about it? And it was going to be transported into an app or something for the young children, or was that Ireland, or maybe it was Northern Ireland?
I'm not
if you don't
sure,
know.
but I know. So in terms of aftercare in Ireland, it's quite like Ireland is often held up as being quite a good country for policy because we have a very strong culture of writing policy in Ireland, and for children and young people services I know more about. So from child participation and youth participation, aftercare as well is also like there's a specific aftercare policy from the Child and Family Services in Ireland, which is it's a well-written document. There's been a number of different things developed for care leavers and for young people with experience of care recently, with government support, like a website, a youth information website for care leavers as well, or for people who are in children in care, by children in care or people with experience of care. I can find that link quickly and have a quick share with you guys. I'm not sure about an app specifically, but yeah, so we do have a good landscape for these kind of policy things in Ireland, and I know currently there's a review of the Child Care Act being carried out by the Department of Children and Youth Affairs as well. So that's what I can say from Ireland. It's interesting to hear that similar issues, of course, similar discourses, and indeed I'm relatively new to the children in alternative care space, and then specifically the leaving care space within it as well. But it's very interesting for me to hear that you guys have also ran into this, the ridiculousness of the argument that we should stop care at 18 or even 20 when informal care supports last until mid-20s, if not later. Like I know Ireland, the average age for leaving home for many young people, my contemporaries, is 26, 25. Countries like Malta, where it's 27, 28. Other countries as well, like in some cases, Scandinavia might be a bit more ahead of the game in terms of young people leaving home earlier. I know this from my experience of living in Sweden. But it's also, yeah, it's a ridiculous argument. So I'd love to know if any of you guys in your various national contexts, Switzerland, Australia, and Norway, if you've had experiences of these arguments being used before and how they've been received, because I'm new to the debate. So it'd be very interesting to hear, it doesn't make sense to have care stop at 18. How is that felt at national level where you guys are sitting?
Well, in Australia, we don't really have a national debate because the national government, although they have a child protection framework, they basically say out-of-home care is the responsibility of each state and territory. So I've been in meetings with ministers where, we've actually said to the minister, how old are your children? And, they will say, oh, they're 21. Oh, are they still living at home? Of course they are. And when you start talking about that, then they actually get the argument. But it is difficult to, to make that argument more broadly at the moment. Yeah. But I think we've only got about 2 minutes to go. So I want to thank everybody in this group for your participation. I think we've had quite a good discussion. Is there any last comment or question that anyone would like to throw in?
Just to quickly say as well, I know for Belgium, where I'm living now, responsibility for care is also devolved to the various language, so the regions of Belgium, so the Flemish speaking, the Dutch speaking, the French speaking, and the German speaking. So there's also not a national consensus on what care is for young people. Just to add that in for the comparative point. So
it sounds like Belgium is quite divided, similar to Switzerland and Australia. Yeah. Interesting. All right. Well, look, thank you, everybody. I think what we do is end this connection, and then you probably have to dial back into the general Zoom. Would that be right, Inga?
Yes, I think so as well. Yes.
All right. Well, I'll end it. Actually, we've got one more. Yeah. All right, so I will end it now, and we'll see you back in the general meeting.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Meet you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Cheers, guys.